Hi, and welcome to the Avidknits podcast. My name is Sarah, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, both as Avidknits. Today is January 24th, 2020, and I'm coming to you from a sunny and cold Houston, Texas. So, I'm sure I forgot something in my intro, but I totally don't remember what it is. It's been a long time since I've done this, you guys. So, my last podcast was right before we went to New York City. So probably the end of September. I recorded a podcast when we got back, but I had some problems with my editing software and I couldn't get it to load. It just kept crashing. I got irritated with it and put it down and said, I'll come back and I'll just do this later. And then I never came back. I lost my mojo in a big way over the holidays. And, it actually happens pretty often during the fall and the winter. My anniversary and my husband's birthday are both in October, and then you end up with Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my husband works a lot of overtime during the year. He works pretty long hours. So during holidays, he's usually on 8 hours a day, and I'm one of those wives that when my husband's home, I'm busy. So if we're good friends and you ask if we can have a girls' day or something, or a meetup for coffee or whatever, then more than likely I'll say yes. But as a general rule, I like my husband. So when he's off, I try to spend as much time with him as possible. And for some reason that usually takes out my knitting time. Maybe I'll work on a pair of socks or something. I don't know. Houston gets so hot that it's practically impossible to be outside during the summer. And I think that whenever the fall hits and then the winter, it's finally cool enough and it's almost... I was watching Mars from the Hey Brown Berry podcast the other day. She lives in South Florida. And I was catching up on some of her podcasts, and she said something that really struck me. And it was, when you live in the South, like we do, when the weather is nice, it's almost mandatory. Like, you have to be outside. It's your duty to be outside and enjoy it because it's impossible to do so any other time of the year. So, needless to say, the podcast didn't get done, and I just really never came back. I didn't really have much to say. And as much as I like to watch a podcast where the podcaster just rambles for no reason, there doesn't even need to be knitting involved in a lot of cases. Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel, no knitting needed. I could just listen to her talk all day. She's just really joyful, and she has a very contagious laugh, and I just really like catching up with her. And there are a couple of others like that. But I don't know that I'm that person. So I like to have knitting. Knitting is a crutch. When I run out of something to talk about or feel really self-conscious for just babbling at a camera, I can pick up knitting and be like, look. Anyway, I'll get into a little bit more life stuff and like what's been going on and plans and blah, blah, blah at the end of it. So, yeah. Hi guys, how are you? How was your holidays? It's 2020. Can make it stop? Something. Some of you who follow me on Instagram will know that today is my birthday. Yay! I turned 34 today. And we are choosing to celebrate later. So my husband's at work, which is odd. This is the first year he hasn't taken off for my birthday. This is the first time my birthday has fallen on a weekend instead of some random Wednesday. And it's really funny because this is the first time in the 5 years that we've been together that I've had a weekend birthday, and it's the first time in 5 years that we haven't packed up and left town. My husband does a surprise birthday trip for me every year, and this year we chose to go in a few weeks. He had some big changes at work, and so we kind of wanted to let the water settle a little bit before we put in for vacation time. So we will make up for it in February, but this is the first year that we're here. It's cool. It's good stuff. So it gave me a chance to catch up with some friends, and I was thinking, and I really miss talking to you guys. I really miss podcasting, so I thought I would slap on some makeup and come out here and do that. Full disclosure, my hairdryer... Oh, the stories. I was going to save babble for the end of this podcast. That's not going to happen. I have a lot to talk about. So get comfortable. Get yourself a drink. Pause here. Get a drink, a cookie. It's great. Speaking of cookies, I found in my local Kroger, Amy Florence will never see this because I'm not cool enough for her to watch, but she totally got me onto this. I was walking in my local Kroger and I happened to walk through the pasta section. Pasta section? No, the international section. Sorry, the international section. Which I buy seasoning from there. We tend to do a lot of Hispanic cooking. This has nothing to do with anything. We're walking through there and they have digestives. They have the McVitie's dark chocolate covered digestive biscuits. And Amy Florence talks about these things like they're gold. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm sure that they're good. I mean, who doesn't like a dark chocolate covered cookie? Sorry, my eyes are watering today. Who doesn't like a cookie covered in dark chocolate? I know I do. So I bought a pack of them. According to Hannah from the Corner of Craft, Bird and Blend Tea Company, based in the UK, has a tea that is flavored after these biscuits. So gonna order some. These things are so good. They are my new favorite thing, and I want to eat 6 packs of them. So if you can find them, I highly recommend them. It's great. So yeah, anyway, Babble, my hair dryer, I go to turn out, last week, I go to turn on my hair dryer, I plug it in, I turn it on, and the entire thing shot out sparks. And it died a very tragic death. So the bobby pins are because I need a haircut, and I don't have a hair dryer, so it's doing kind of whatever it wants. Only knitters do this, because I could have just left it alone and you would have thought, oh, look, Sarah pinned up her hair, how cute, and you would have never known the difference. But I have to point out why it's not perfect. It's like when we show each other, like, this is my new sweater. Spoiler, it is my new sweater, but this is my new sweater. And here's where I messed up on row 52 in the chart. Okay, this is my new sweater. This is the Spectre by Joji Locatelli. It is knit to have, or written to have, like 4 to 6 inches of positive ease, and I chose not to do any of that. Okay, so it's got long sleeves that are ballooned kind of on the cuffs. It has this really pretty knit stitch detail. The entire body is reverse stockinette, and it has this really gorgeous lattice work up on the top. It is a fade. I used a bunch of colors that are in my last podcast, but I will try to remember. This is, I know the top is Sweet Sparrow Yarns in Pajama Day. This is on her Stellina base. The middle color is 6 and 7 fiber, Embers at Dawn. I'll stand up, sorry. This color right here, the light purple, is a single ply Olan. It's from Olan. These were both club colorways, that one and this brown here. The brown one is called Canyon. This one did not have a name. It didn't have a tag, but I was looking at her website, and I think it's a variation on her Dusk colorway. So yeah, so I knit mine shorter than it calls for, with less ease than it calls for, and that's it. I love it. This is actually one of the first times I've gotten to wear it. But I'm all about the woolies right now, so I'm really excited to be able to debut it for you guys on the podcast. I was still working on it the last time that I published an episode. It was finished the last of my podcast, but since I didn't put the podcast up. Aren't you glad I was prepared today? Okay, got my coffee. I got my setup. I have so much to talk to you about. It's ridiculous. So let's start with finished objects. Okay, just flat out finished objects. No, let's start with chronological order. Let's do that. So since I've spoken to you, I have finished Since I've spoken to you last, I have finished 2 objects. I sent one back. Some of you will remember that I was working on a tan sweater. It was the Noble Hill. I was knitting it out of Autumn and Indigo. I was having the hardest time with the yarn. The yarn and my gauge and needle size just were not jiving, and I was having a lot of hand pain and a lot of problems with it. So I sent that back to Claire and when I lost my knitting mojo, because I didn't want her to have to wait for 6 months for me to feel like picking up needles again. So she is going to have somebody else finish that. I feel really bad about that, but I was just having such a hard time, and it was such a nightmare. I was having a little bit of mental health problems at the time, and it just wasn't getting done. And I felt so bad for just sitting there with it. But she was very understanding. She's a very good friend, and she let me send it back to her. So sorry, Claire. But I'm willing to do the next one. Let me know. Yeah, she was so understanding about that. It was really fantastic. So I really appreciate that, Claire. Thanks. Other than that, I finished a child's jelly roll sweater for Teal Torch Knits in Portland, Oregon. I'll put a photo here or here, whatever, somewhere. You'll see a photo. All of the yarn colors and choices, modifications, anything I did can all be found on my Ravelry group, on my Ravelry projects page. Sorry, I take really good notes. So I'm not going to try to remember colorways right now. It's been 3 months since I finished it, but all of that information is there if you do like something. She has beautiful yarn. I highly suggest that you check out her shop. She is doing a color of the month for Stranger Things right now. I got her Stranger Things Mystery Minis set. It was a 13-day set for Halloween. I got them for my husband. He's a big Stranger Things fan, and I plan on doing socks with them. I cannibalized a couple of them for my blanket, my granny stripe blanket. But there were a couple that he asked that I save. So like the Demodog colorway, which is this really crazy, has like really acid greens and some grays and some blacks. It was really pretty. So that kind of stuff he asked me to save for him. So these are a couple of the lighter colors from the club. She had some really gorgeous neons and stuff. So these are just a couple of the leftovers that I had. I have more in my blanket, and whenever I show you my finished granny stripe blanket, I will see if I can point out a couple of those for you too. Let's see, what else did I finish? I finished the Stone Crop Cardi. The last time I spoke to you about that, I was telling you that the contrast color that I had gotten was clashing with the main color. So I was able to switch that out with Sharon of the Modern Skein, who is based in Montgomery, Texas. It's just north of Houston. If you're ever in the Houston area, I highly recommend her shop. Sharon is great. The shop is amazing. She always has really great stuff. It's just beautiful yarn. So I finished that, and I did that out of Red Stag Fiber, which is her husband's yarn company, excuse me. He has wonderful colorways. I will post a photo here. It was a steeked cardigan. Because it was superwash, I did have to sew it. I read Andrea Mowry wrote the Stone Crop Cardi pattern, and her patterns are wonderfully well written, but her advice for steeking on superwash was to run a straight stitch. So a straight stitch, for those of you who don't sew, because I didn't, is basically a line of stitches. I personally feel like a zigzag stitch should have been used, which is where it would have had the two stitches next to each other and it would have gone back and forth across them to secure them together. I really wish I would have used that one instead. I had a couple of places where I got pretty nervous about them unraveling, and I had to end up knotting them. And then to cover up all of that, I did the crochet reinforcement too, and I still had the problem. But I covered up all of the ugliness by using ribbon up the sides of the steek, as you can see in the photo here. And it finished out very beautifully. You can't tell anything. Just a note for next time, or if you choose to make the cardigan, that's something you might want to consider because of the superwash. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm rushing, but I have a lot to talk to you about, and I'm super excited to finally share it. The next thing, I'm looking behind me to find out what chronologically came in next. I think after that, I started receiving advents. I purchased 3 advent calendars this year. I purchased Dragon Horde yarn because she did a Harry Potter Christmas at Hogwarts based off of book 3, which is The Prisoner of Azkaban, and that is my favorite book and my favorite Harry Potter story. I was really excited about those colorways. I really wanted to do that. She did a thing where when you checked out, you picked your house, and your house determined what kind of candle you got. So I got a wax and wool candle that was custom made for her, and it is called Potions because I am a Slytherin. And it's a wonderful scent. It's amazing. My dog gets really nasty allergies, like in his eyes. His eyes glue together basically when I burn scented candles. So I have to be really careful about how often I do that or where he is, or, you know, I can't do him in the bedroom because it lingers and it messes him up really bad. So I haven't burned it yet. I will. But I took the lid off and it's just this really pretty smell. It's really fresh when you walk into the room, and I really love it. So that was gorgeous. She did 24 minis with a full skein and then the candle, and I tore all of those minis open in one day. The moment that I got it, I sat on the floor with my husband. I did not open my advent calendars. Y'all, I had some downtime, some serious mental downtime. And so me and my husband sat down, and he finally convinced me on like day 12 of December and was like, you should open these. Like, come on, I'll sit with you. And kind of, I don't know, childishly urged me to have some fun. And we kind of got through them and we were like, open them all. So we did. I opened them all and they were gorgeous. And I started adding them into my granny stripe blanket. And I was actually able to finish my blanket with that. So without further ado, this is my granny stripe blanket, and it's really big and really long, so I'm not going to stand up and show it to you. It is roughly 4 feet wide, and I think it's 7 feet long, maybe. I didn't make a very wide one, but I kind of color managed, so I would get not really a fade, but I would get stripes of color families. So we have all of these here. The last time that I showed this to you guys was, let me see, I think I took the stitch marker off finally, was right here in between where this variegated purple is. This is called Mermaid Toes. It's by Dream in Color. And then it goes right into a couple of the minis that I just showed you from Teal Torch Knits that came from the Stranger Things Club. And from here up was basically Stranger Things and Dragon Horde, and I think there's some stress knits in here. Julie of Sweet Sparrow Yarns and I did a yarn swap a few months ago, and so a lot of those colors are in there too. And then you've seen all of these, but I'll show it to you again, and so it just keeps going. I'm not sure how well this is showing up on camera. I'm having trouble controlling this blanket. And then whenever I got done, I just went through and did a single crochet all the way around. I did 2 rows of single crochet all the way around. I just wanted a really simple edging and a really simple finish. And I love it. I love it. I love it. This is one of the most satisfying finished objects I've ever had. So yeah, and of course, because of that, and as I'm sure most people do when they finish their granny stripe blanket, I immediately turned around and started another one. So this is my first one, and I love it. It's amazing. It's perfect for one person or for me and Hector to share. Hector's my son, my 8-year-old. For us to share while we play Little Big Planet together or while we watch a movie. I tend to tuck my feet up into my chair, so it works out really well that way. But I missed it. And so I started another one. But I thought this time I want to do something a little bit different. I think that, ooh, a granny, like, but with a wave, like a granny stripe wave. That would be so cool, right? Right? This is as far as I got. I got really annoyed after 2 colors. You have to count, so it's not anywhere near as mindless and it's not as relaxing. And I just kind of missed the granny puff, like the little bundles of 3. So for those of you who don't know, I'm so sorry to assume that all of you are totally hip to all this. That's terrible. The granny stripe blanket was it's not really a pattern. You can find the stitch in any stitch dictionary for crochet, but the notes for it and the idea for it was kind of started up by Addict24. She has a blog post and she gives you a really good hint for where to change your colors and how to manage the ends of the rows and to add in the new colors and things that you should do for that. So I use some of her notes just as a guideline, and it's really easy to customize. I started a second one, and this one is so much wider. It's a lot wider. This one is maybe 5 feet long, or 5 feet wide. I'm sorry, 5 feet wide. And as you can see, I tried really hard just to be random with my colors, and I'm just not that person. So these kind of do the grouping thing too. So I started down here on the bottom with the yellow. And I have to stop really quick because this color, this second color, so the very bottom color is Pollen by Hedgehog Fibers, and then this secondary color right here, this, let me see what's got in it. It's got greens and oranges and yellows and creams, and I don't remember the name of the color, but it is a Dragon Horde color from her Advent. I would make a sweater in that. It is gorgeous. It was so pretty. Anyway, that's one of my favorite colors right there. This insanely bright neon purple thing. This is one of the Teal Torch Knits colors for Stranger Things. It is called New Style. She released it in January as a Stranger Things color. Yeah, so this is what I've got so far. Most of this is stress knits. There's a little bit of Sweet Sparrow in here. There's the Dragon Horde colorways. Yeah, I've got a couple of colors from my third Advent count. Okay, so, sorry. Let's back up. So, that is my blanket that I am working on. And living on it is this, I'll get to move it now that I've shown it to you, is this really beautiful snowflake stitch marker that I got as a little goodie in an Advent calendar that I purchased. And the Advent calendar that I purchased is from O Loops. And I've heard of O Loops before. Stacy of Stress Knits has talked about them several times. They do a Harry Potter sock club thing every year, a knit along, and they custom dye yarn, and you can pick out like a prefect kit. So you get to pick out what house you were in, and you get a goodie based off of your house. Lots of Harry Potter stuff. And I never did it because it's relatively expensive, especially for something that I've never tried. But whenever they did the Advent calendar, she showed this gorgeous mood board of sage greens and winter trees and snow-covered pines and cozy apple cider drinks and hot coffees, and said that was her inspiration for this year's Advent calendar. And it was so warm and inviting and cozy that I was like, okay, I want one of those. I had intended to buy an Advent calendar from Julie of Sweet Sparrow, but she had sold out before I was able to get one. And then a really funny story, after I purchased this one, 5 days later, she found some and put them back up. And I was like, no! It was really dramatic. So I'm getting one this year. I had so much fun with Advent calendars. It was ridiculous. So, Advent calendars, for those of you who don't know, can be pretty expensive. So an Advent calendar, typically, sometimes there's less days, sometimes there's more days, sometimes they're for Hanukkah, sometimes they're for Kwanzaa, sometimes they're 12 days of Christmas or 24 days of Advent. Typically they're 24 minis, and then maybe a full skein, and they'll have little goodies in them, teas and cookies and little things, just fun things. And you open one every day of Advent leading up to Christmas. So from the 1st of December to the 25th. So the O Loops was a 24-day Advent, and here are some of the minis that I got in that. And they came on multiple different bases, and they all, every single day, came packaged very beautifully with a goodie, with a treat. Some days were tea, some days were, I think I've gotten shortbread cookies a couple of times. They were all marked with these beautiful die cut tags for the day number. They were all tied really beautifully. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see I've posted up every day and then the name of the colorway. And I've gotten some really unique stuff. There was a candle and like a wax, I don't know if it's wax, I don't really know what it's made out of, but like a wax paper bag with cutouts, so you would have like a candle lantern that you would put outside on your doorstep or whatever. There was wooden cutout Christmas ornaments. There was a paper snowflake garland. There's been, yesterday I got a sleigh bell, like for your tree. How beautiful that is. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's got a snowflake on the bottom, and this one, I almost cried, you guys. I almost cried. I was so touched that somebody had made, not even made me, but made, let's say she made 150 of these boxes, made 150 bluebirds of happiness. So this is my first little bluebird of happiness. Isn't he pretty? So he hangs on my books and he just hangs out. And I thought that was just so lovely and so personal to put into something like an advent calendar. Yeah, I'm in love. I'm super happy. So I've done all 24 minis, and then this is day 25. So whenever I got this advent calendar, it came with a printout. I got a personalized thank you letter, and then I got this. This is the printout of all the colorways. It tells you all the bases that they used and the base information, which I thought was really wonderful. So there's Dickens Christmas Carol, mulling spices. The mulling spices, I got a packet of mulling spices. It's not a small packet. It's enough for a gallon of apple juice at least. The hot cocoa one is in Irish Farms hot cocoa, and it came with this giant snowflake marshmallow to put on top of your cup. Okay. So I am rambling on and have totally skipped telling you this. I got this advent calendar and I never opened it. I was like, whatever, I'll do it next year. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't really want to. And then I said, you know what? My birthday is on the 24th of January. I'll do it for my birthday. I was really late getting into the Christmas spirit, and then it was almost like it was over before I really got to enjoy it. So for my birthday, I thought I will open this advent calendar because I already have it, and it'll be a fun thing to help me get into the spirit of my birthday. And I am so glad I did. I will do this every year. This has been the funnest experience ever. This has been great. Anyway, back to it. This is day 25. So, I don't know if I want to open this because it's my birthday. It's my birthday. Anybody who's seen Thor Ragnarok will appreciate that. Anyway, I don't know if I want to open this because it's my birthday or if I want to save it because my husband is taking over a department at work and so has to work on Saturday. He has to work tomorrow. So I'm going to wake up and he goes to work at like 5 something in the morning, you guys. So I'm going to wake up and be by myself. And so I'm wondering if I should just keep it for tomorrow as like a little pick-me-up. I can't decide. So anyway, not sponsored, just a huge fan. Loops was a fantastic advent. And it's what a great company. Really, what a great company. The yarn is amazing. The customer service has been fantastic. I have chit-chatted several times based off of tags and, you know, with I'm blanking on her name. I will put it on the down here. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I'm terrible with names. If I haven't had like a face-to-face conversation with you or have like a really strong, this is why we have talked, it takes me a long time to create a concept of somebody and then remember their name. And that's a really terrible thing, but it's a fact. This is who I am. So now I know that there are 1,000 of you, not really. I only have like 25 subscribers. All 25 of you though are sitting back there saying, they look so fun, but they're so expensive. And you're right. They are so expensive. I've never done one before. I got a couple of different options so that I could find out kind of what I liked or if it was something that I thought I would be into because I know everybody does their own. I have one company that I will continue to return to. I love the Loops calendar. I will come back to that absolutely. I will probably try a couple of different ones this year. If it is not in your budget, and it's not in most of ours, if it's not in your budget, I really recommend find somebody in your area or a friend that you've made online. Just randomly ask people, even if you feel like you've not been the best friends online. You text people and say, hey, I would really like to do an Advent mini swap. Would you be interested? And make each other swaps. I know that Amy Florence does one with, I want to say it's Ellie of Skein-Deer. I think it's Caroline of Dundernit and maybe Nikki from Tea Impossibilities. All four of those are fantastic podcasts. Please try them. But basically they each make 8 minis and then they swap so that you get 8 from one person, 8 from another person, 8 from a third person. And you only had to come up with 8, but you got 24. And it's a really great way to get rid of scraps, to try new yarns, to keep your prices low. You know, they don't have to be hand-dyed. They don't have to be indie. They don't have to anything. I know that Opal makes really, really wonderful variegateds. That would be a lot of fun to swap. They don't do an advent calendar anymore, but that would be a fun yarn to swap with. I know Patton's is a very affordable sock yarn. I know that you don't have to use sock yarn. You can use worsted weight. You can use whatever you happen to have on hand. Anyway, I really encourage you to do that with each other. It makes things a lot of fun. It makes the holiday season a little bit brighter, and it was great. So anyway, I told you that I bought 3 advent calendars, and I did. When I missed out on Julie's, I decided that I would take the money that I had expected to spend on hers, and I wanted to support a smaller company, a smaller maker. I really wanted to put my money with a maker that I have followed that I know is very small scale. I wanted to try that. And so I did. Stacy from Stress Knits offered up a couple of options. I think she offered an 8-day, a 12-day, and then the full 24. I might be wrong about the 8-day one, but I know she had a 12 and a 24, and I know that because I got the 12-day. And hers came really, really sweetly packaged. All the packages were a little bit different. They were muslin bags. They were all reusable packaging. There was hardly any waste in it at all. And yeah, it was really beautiful. I got 12 minis, and I used 8 of them in a cowl. So these are from the Stress Knits 12-day advent calendar. And I don't remember all of the names. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'll try to tell you what I know. So this one was dried lavender, and it's this really beautiful smoky purple. This one was winter floral. Something coffee. Over coffee, maybe? I don't remember those. This color is dusk, and I know that because she's maintained it as a permanent colorway. Say this is her new Christmas colorway. This is Last Christmas. I believe this one is called Gathering, and I love that one. And I don't remember the name of this beautiful pink. Eloise. And that one has also become a permanent in her shop. So this is a cowl by the absolutely sweet Jules Hill of So Sweet Violet. If you've never seen Jules, I highly recommend you check out her podcast. It's gorgeous. And hers is held with Suri alpaca. I don't have any alpaca, and honestly, it's too hot and it's fuzzy. Not my thing. We don't get cold enough for that, so I can appreciate it. But I chose not to do it that way. I just made it in fingering weight, so I didn't alter anything. I just did it. And I did 2 of these yarn over. I think it's a yarn over and then knit 2. I don't know. You pass the slip. It's a pass the slip stitch. Anyway, you pass the stitch over the other 2. And I did 2 of those for each color. And then I transitioned in the middle of the stockinette row. And yeah, I love it. It's perfect. So it'll go really great under a jacket. It's super light. It's really cozy. And I'm really happy with it. So yeah, that was my first finished object of 2020. And then as soon as I did that, guess what came crawling out of the woodwork? My knit mojo. So yeah, so I found my mojo. I don't know where it was. Went on vacation. Didn't tell me. Didn't bring me anything back. Rude. And so now I'm kind of back into the swing of things. So I have a half-finished object to share with you. I have a couple of goodies to share with you that I found or that I received. I have 2 commissions on the needles, and I have a plan in action for another sweater. So, after all of that babble, here we go with the real podcast content. Yay! I'll try to be better about doing this regularly, and then maybe we'll get back into the swing of things. No promises, though. I woke up this morning, and my husband had got me flowers last night and then left them in the car. And put them out this morning with like a pack of cookies. It was really sweet. Oh, man. So for my birthday, I've gotten a couple of really fun little gifts, but I wanted to share this one with you just because I thought it was super nitty appropriate. Let me see if I can work out the... Okay, no, I can't. It's just a charm bracelet. So this one says Knitting Diva. This one is a scarf, a knitted scarf. We have a little tiny sweater. I can't tell if it's, okay. We have a little tiny sweater on some knitting needles. And then we have a skein of yarn. And yeah, so it's one of these that flexes. So unfortunately, you can't take them off and use them as stitch markers. But yeah, so that's really sweet. I got that from my late husband's mother, and I thought that was a really wonderful, thoughtful gift that she sent me for my birthday. Her birthday is a couple days before mine, so. All right, half-finished object. I have a hoe, and it is a sock. This has been making the rounds of the YouTubers for a very long time, and I've been kind of obsessed with it. This is last year's... I don't even remember what year it was. It was either last year or the year before. It's the Christmas colorway from West Yorkshire Spinners, which is a British company made in Yorkshire in Cayley, England. It is a 75% wool, 25% nylon. It contains 35% of Blueface Leicester, so BFL, reared, sheared, and spun in Britain. And it is a 4-ply. It's their signature 4-ply. It looks like this. This is crazy affordable. This is a 100-gram ball, so you'll get a full pair of socks out of this. It's 437 yards, 400 meters. And my husband really likes shorty socks, so I knit him a pair of shorties. And he loves them, and I'm totally jealous, and now I want a pair. So it's a good thing I have enough yarn. So yeah, that's my half object. I know that it's a Christmas colorway. I don't believe in deadlines unless I'm being paid for it. So he'll get them when he gets them. My other work that I have on the needle is for a friend of mine who is having her first baby. And so I went to go see Camille over Mother's Day. Some of you might remember. I went to Portland over Mother's Day. And she is, like I said, having her first baby. They are not finding out the gender. So that makes knitting so much fun. I say that with no sarcasm. Like, I don't really believe in the whole, like, oh, you're having a boy, it should be blue. But at the same time, you know, some parents, I'm not saying Camille is this way, but I have noticed that some parents who say they want gender neutral don't really mean it. They want gender neutral, but they don't want it to have any feminine aspects. So if I make a lacy cardigan, or if I make it out of pink, there are not a lot of parents who are going to put that on their little boy. They're just going to complain that it wasn't gender neutral, even though they don't want the gender stereotype of color. So they don't want gender neutral, but they want gender neutral, but they want it within the constructs of no blue, no pink, no frillies, none of that. So that makes it harder. And I'm not saying Camille is this way. I'm sure she probably really wouldn't mind, but it is a unique challenge when doing baby knit. So I am knitting, like all good baby knitters, a flax. This is a flax light, and I am using a very old skein of yarn from Alexandra's Crafts. She dyes out of, I don't know if she still does, but she did dye out of Silverton, Oregon. This is Her Bling Bling sister base is 75 superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina, and it is a gradient. So there's 436 yards. Here's her label. And it goes from this really gorgeous deep teal all the way through these water blues and greens. I know it's nuts. I'll explain it in a minute. Into a silver, and then down into a charcoal gray. So that's wonderful. It's gorgeous. So the problem that I'm having, and not problem, the thing I'm having, and the reason I pulled out all that yarn barf, is that because I'm knitting it from one skein, I obviously want the sleeves to maybe not gradiate, but I want them to be in the blue family, which means that I need to knit a little bit more of the body and then break my yarn, knit both sleeves, and then knit the bottom and the ribbing in the grays. Now, obviously, as it goes through, it gets darker and darker and darker. So I would really like the darkest part to be at the very bottom of the sweater if possible. But I'm trying to decide how much yarn management I'm really willing to do. So I'm doing fine with it. And I will get around to finishing it here shortly. Her baby isn't due until March. I have plenty of time. And then I think I will probably knit a second one, and I will do it out of this cream color. This is Birch Gray from Madeline Tosh. This is her Tosh sock base, so it has a nice twist on it. Both of those things are superwash. They can both be tossed in the washer, and they will both be nice and cozy for little one. They are living in my Fat Squirrel Fibers. Fibers? I think it's Fat Squirrel Fibers. Fat Squirrel bag. Anyway, this is made by Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel Speaks podcast. She's amazing. It's just got some magpies on it. It's a great bag. I really enjoy it. Speaking of great bags that I enjoy, I got 2 bags from the same maker. I got one for Christmas, and I bought one for myself for my birthday as my from me present. Because you should have at least one of those. And since I'm an adult and can do what I want, I did it. These are from Luna Pie Designs. This is my Christmas one. So it's just this little clutchy bag thing. And then when you open it, it is a square opening and it's a standalone box bag, which I love. I do so much knitting in a car or sitting next to a chair, or it's awesome for yarn management. And yeah, so I got one for the holidays. This is Let It Snow and Be Jolly. It's got little snowmen and penguins and candy canes and fun stuff like that on it. And then the one I got for my birthday is this one, and it's me in a bag. So it's all the coffee stuff. And then the inside is just this really pretty natural, and it does the same thing. There are no pockets on the inside. There's no kerfuffle. There's nothing. It opens up, and that is it. The only thing I wish that was different, this is what it looks like when you have it closed. I wish it had handles. So you could just pick it up like a purse or something, or a handle, or, just something so that you could take it places or you could carry it alone. Other than that, I have no complaints about the bag whatsoever. They're wonderfully made. I highly recommend you check them out. I'll put the link in the description box below. In my coffee bag is my most recent commission and the one with the shortest deadline. So I am knitting this for Farmer's Daughter Fibers, who is based in Montana. Her name is Candace, and she's amazing. She does really great work in their community for Indigenous peoples and has beautiful yarn. I highly recommend that you check her out. This is her Moon Sisters base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% bronze stellina, which is awesome. It's 438 yards. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And I was supposed to have bound off before I started to do this podcast, but I didn't because I'm failing. So I'm knitting this sweater. This is designed by Jamie Holland, who is Knitosophy. It's like philosophy, but with knit in front of it. So I'm not really sure how you pronounce that. Anyway, Jamie is really sweet. And I will put a picture of her original sample right here so that you can see it. And I am knitting this one out of Ranch Romance, Nappy, or Nappy, I'm not sure, Napi, I'm not sure which one, Paul Newman, and Namu. So all of these things together create this really beautiful colorwork sweater. This is the Swallowtail sweater by, like I said, by Jamie Holland, and it will be released very shortly. So you start out with your one color on the top and you do some short row shaping, and then you dip down into the colorwork charts. Here's this gorgeous butterfly. It is a zebra swallowtail. And then you go down farther in your body, and then you have a little bit of chart on the bottom, and I am in the middle of the ribbing. There's only a few rows of ribbing, and then I'll bind off, and I will start the sleeves. So this this is 7 days of progress. This has taken me 7 days. Not much else is getting done in my life right now. But it has a really short, had a really short deadline. I was approached about it with about 6 weeks to knit the sweater, and then getting the yarn took quite a while. So basically it's become a pretty big rush object. So I want to make sure that I have time to block it and mail it back to Montana so that she can show it at Stitches West. So it will be in the Farmer's Daughter Fiber booth at Stitches West if you want to go squish it, and it'll have my name on it. So take a picture with it if you see it, so that I get to see that somebody found it. In this bag is my second commission that I was talking about, and this is another one for the Modern Skein for Sharon. So I did the stone crop for them out of the Red Stag fiber. I did it out of, I'm not even sure. I don't even remember the base. I did it out of one of the fingering weight bases. Josh has a brand new base, and this is 100% BFL. And it is phenomenal. This is the squishiest, most lovable. I'm so happy with this base. This is wonderful. I cannot wait to really get into this. So it's just this really beautiful green, and it's got some tonal variation in it. It's got a couple of little specks. I'm not sure how intentional that was or how much of it was just that the dye broke, but it was really amazing. If you look at the very top, I don't think my camera will get this, but if you look at the very top, there's a bit of a fuzz. And some of that fuzz, which, is just a little bit of toothiness. And so it's a dark gray color, which, for those of you who don't know, BFL is kind of a silver. And I'm so excited. I am so excited about this. So I did my swatch. I not watched a thing for Patty Lyons about how to swatch. And so this entire time they did this swatch, I felt like Patty was right here yelling at me because I know that I swatch wrong, and I was trying really hard to be good about my swatch, and I feel like I had Patty Lyons yelling at me. If you don't know who Patty Lyons is, I suggest that you look her up. She is a wealth of information, and she is very funny. So swatch is supposed to be done in reverse stockinette. This is going to be the Oster sweater. It's a Brooklyn tweed pattern. I believe it's by Michelle Wong, and I will put a picture here. It's all over cables. So here's my cable. It will be cables all the way around the front, all the way around the back. So I swatched on a 5, on a US 5, and then on a US 6. And I think I'm going to go with the 5. This is a DK. The sweater calls for shelter, which is a worsted, a semi-thick worsted, some people say. But I'm going to convert it into a DK pattern. And I have my math all figured out to do that, so it should be just fine. But I was looking at my swatch and my fabric, and I think I'm going to pick the size 5 US needle. So I just need to get at least one sleeve done on the other sweater, and then I can start this one, or I can get this one cast on. Okay, look at all this clean desk space now. I've almost worked through it all. I have a couple of maker plans that are selfish. Kind of. This is a skein of Amanda Hope yarn. Some of you will remember that I helped in the booth at Houston Fiber Fest last June, and I knit her a Zweig sample for her booth, and she was so very lovely. Wendy was so lovely, and she gifted me a sweater's quantity of yarn in my choice, and I chose this colorway. It's called Egyptian. And this is in her merino cashmere Aran base, her cashmerino Aran base. Now, when I chose this, I thought that I wanted them to all look like this. And I have 3 skeins that are quite a bit darker. They're more browny, green, a little more reminiscent of camo, which was a little not really what I wanted. And whenever I did this, I don't know why I did this. This is not a good color for me. Like, it washes me out horribly, but I thought that it would be a fun nurtured or an Ursa, kind of a throw-over sweater, something that I would really enjoy. I have a really dear friend in Arizona, and her favorite colors are like butter yellows and saddle browns, and this is so her palette. So I'm going to knit her a sweater out of this, and it's going to just be a gift knit. So when I start that, I will talk to you more about the pattern. I think I picked out the pattern that I want. I'm going to knit the On the Grass pullover by Joji Locatelli picture. And I'm going to do it out of this yarn, and I think it's going to be really pretty. So I will keep you posted on how the progress goes on that. And my very last maker plan is for this guy. It's for me. I bought my husband, I don't even remember. I think I was talking about this on the last podcast. I kind of skimmed through the last podcast that I recorded, but I didn't watch the whole thing, obviously. And so I'm not really sure what I covered and what I didn't cover. I purchased last year enough Rauma Stricka Garn. This is a 3-ply, so it's roughly a DK weight. It is Norwegian wool. I purchased enough of this to knit him the Sawyer sweater by Jared Flood, maybe. It's a Brooklyn Tweed pattern too, because I'm obsessed. I feel like it's not Jared Flood. It might be Michelle Wong. They're all Michelle Wong. Why not? I have like 4 of her patterns for Brooklyn Tweed that I really want to knit. Anyway, irrelevant. I'll put it here. I bought this yarn for him to knit this sweater, which is basically like a modern take on a thermal Henley. And I got 5 inches into the body. It's not a heavy wool. It's a relatively light wool. And I don't mind it next to skin. I think it's okay. But I kind of started looking at it and how heavy it was getting. These are 50-gram balls. And I was thinking about the type of sweater it was. I'm lying to you. I got through both sleeves. Both sleeves and part of the back panel, maybe? Yeah. I don't really remember why we chose not to go through with that, but he chose that he did not want to go through with that sweater, that he would like a different sweater. I have chosen another one. It's not a big deal. And I'm going to make it, I will probably break down and get Brooklyn Tweed. He really likes the cast iron colorway. I would like to use a Garrett Wool Company or something, or somebody else. Nothing against Brooklyn Tweed, just price point's a little high. It's beautiful yarn. But that's kind of what he wants. He really likes Brooklyn Tweed. And so Brooklyn Tweed will also be next to skin friendly for him. He ends up with like breakouts on his inner arms sometimes when he wears long sleeves for too long, or if he wears something that's rough. And he doesn't do what I do. He doesn't layer. So he's not going to wear anything underneath it. He'll get too hot. So I'm going to knit him a different sweater out of Brooklyn Tweed, and I'm going to use his yarn, and I decided this 10 minutes before I started recording, and I'm going to make myself an antler pullover by Tin Can Knits. And it's going to be gorgeous out of this yarn, and it's going to be perfect. And I'm so excited, and I just want to knit that now. But I'm busy. Yes. Okay. You know what? My desk is clear, and I think I have caught you up on absolutely everything going on in my life. At least I hope so. This is going to be a seriously long podcast. So, yeah, I will try to get back into the whole, like, actually record on time, show up, record it all, something along those lines. So, yes, I hope that you guys have had a great January and that you're getting your feet into 2020 and that it's moving along for you. We are already into February almost, and that's insane. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have got. So thank you so much for checking me out. If this is your first time here and dealing with all the babble and the absolute lack of intro, because that's where that was supposed to be. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back and saying hi. I really hope that all of you are well. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.